Well, here we are, folks, again at part 8, and we're going to continue our discussion by analyzing changes in demand and changes in supply. So we'll begin with our equilibrium situation. We're going to use our same coffee beans example, and we're going to be starting off with equilibrium with the American consumers, who are the only consumers in this equilibrium situation, are demanding at $5 a pound. They're demanding 6 million pounds of coffee, and the suppliers are willing to supply 6 million pounds of coffee at $5 a pound, and the situation is in equilibrium. Now, we move forward in the problem. The problem would say that there is a new country that is also going to be purchasing coffee beans from the same suppliers. Okay? So in this case, Germany is going to be purchasing from the same suppliers, and therefore there's going to be a lot more consumers purchasing coffee or demanding coffee beans. Okay? And remember that in any problem, if they do not mention price, then we must be talking about a shift in demand. Okay? So the problem did not specify that there was a change in price, so therefore we're not dealing with movement along the demand curve. We are dealing with more consumers, so we must be dealing with a shift in the demand. Okay? And because there's more consumers, it's going to be a shift to the right. So we go ahead and draw our second demand curve. Okay? And what we notice is that the curve has shifted to the right, as we would expect. Okay? And this means the combined, and this is combined demand for both United States and Germany together. The original demand curve is just the United States portion of that demand. Okay? And so what do we see happening? Well, the suppliers see this shift of the demand curve as an increase in price. Therefore, they experience a movement along the supply curve, upward and to the right, okay, to a new price level. Okay? And so therefore we end up establishing a new equilibrium level, an equilibrium 2, okay? And that would be at a higher quantity. That would be 9 million tons or pounds of coffee supplied at the new equilibrium price of $7, which is $2 higher than the $5 the original equilibrium. Okay? So all the suppliers are willing to supply all the coffee beans that are demanded by the combined group of Germany and America, and that combined group will equal 9 million pounds. Okay? Now, what do the American consumers see happening, though? Okay? To see that, we go back to the original demand curve, and we see that now American consumers are experiencing a rise in price from the original equilibrium level of $5 a pound to the new equilibrium level of $7 a pound. But at that higher price, the American consumers are only willing to demand less coffee than they did at the original equilibrium lower price. So the American consumers now are only going to demand 3 million pounds of coffee, and they experience a decline in the number of pounds of coffee that they will demand, because they have experienced an increase in price. Okay. Now, let's take a look at the supply side of another problem. Okay. And here again, we start off with an equilibrium situation where we have demand and supply. We're using the same coffee bean situation. Okay. And the new scenario is an improvement in technology. So originally, the suppliers were hand-picking coffee beans. Now somebody invents the perfect machine that will go through the rows of coffee plants and will pick only the ripe coffee beans. Okay? And therefore they're able to reduce their labor costs. Okay? And so new technology, which reduces labor costs, will cause the supply curve to shift to the right. Okay? And we see that as a shift of the supply curve. Okay? Now, what do the consumers see? Okay? Now remember, that shift to the right has caused suppliers to supply more at every price. Okay? So what do the consumers see? Well, the consumers see that as a lowering of the price to the new equilibrium level. Okay? So they see it as a lowering of the price. Okay? And the new equilibrium level will have, the price will now be lowered down, in this example, down to $3 a pound, and the consumption will go from 6 million pounds to almost 8 million pounds. And actually, you notice my numbers are not exact, but you get the idea that wherever the curve moved to, we now have a higher price for the new equilibrium level, and more quantity being demanded and being supplied by the suppliers, okay, so that the market is cleared at that new equilibrium level. Okay. So we're going to continue in part 9 to discuss how a checklist, if you will, on how best to approach supply and demand problems so that you make sure that you answer them properly. We'll do that in part 9. Thank you very much.